everyone, and welcome to another Bookmas video. So today is going to be more of a controversial one, so if I mention any of your favourite authors, I am really sorry. But these are 10 authors that I'm going to give a second chance to, because I've read one book by each of them, apart from one, but there's a condition there, so I will explain that one when I get to it. And I've given all of their books 1 star. And I've never read any of their others, but I'm interested in giving them another chance. There were some other authors that could have featured on this that have released like a 3-star read, and I've been a bit meh about it, but I've never been like, I will not read anymore. But these are ones that I was like, I never want to read anything by you again, and I've changed my mind and kind of come around to it. So they're also, yeah, if we don't like them, we will end up unhauling them. It means that we'll be clearing some shelf space. Otherwise, I'll just be keeping them forever, not reading them, thinking, oh well, I didn't like that author's other book, but I haven't read that one yet. So we're trying to clear some shelf space in 2021, get some spring cleaning done. So, without further ado, the first author I'd like to talk about is Natasha Preston, who wrote Awake. I read Awake in October or September, I'm not quite sure which, and I hated it. It was a YA thriller about a girl who has a mysterious past. Like, she's forgotten all of her memories from before she was either 3 or 4, and she's got a mysterious past. And in my opinion, like, I can't remember anything from before I was 3 or 4. That doesn't mean that I was, like, I had, like, a mysterious past. It just means that I can't remember anything, because most children can't, as far as I'm aware. So it was just one of these books that, like, even from the premise, it just wasn't logical and I didn't enjoy it. But I do have another of Natasha Preston's books called The Cabin on My Netgalley, so I have to give her another go just to see that one, because I have to review it because it's on My Netgalley. So I will be giving her another try, but then after that, I might not give her another chance. The next book I'd like to talk about is E.J. Squires, who writes Savage Run. This is a book that I have been slowly changing my mind on over the last 6 years, which is interesting. Not many books do that to me, but my problem with Savage Run was that it just wasn't well edited. And back when I first started reviewing, I thought that, oh, well, if the book isn't kind of proofread, if it isn't edited well, then it's not worth my time because it's lazy. And that isn't the way that I think anymore, because sometimes these things happen, like, especially if you're an independent author, like, fair play to you for, like, getting your book out. And as long as your story is solid and your characters are good, that's what matters. And I gave Savage Run 1 star, but it's the kind of book that the scenes pop into my head so vibrantly, just randomly out of the blue. I'm like, oh, what book? Oh, that's Savage Run? Really? Why am I thinking about that? But it's because the way that the scenes are crafted is so kind of good. Like, it's good. And I might reread it and still not enjoy it, and I might regret saying that I'm going to give it another chance. But looking at Goodreads, it looks like the book that I read was Savage Run Part 1, and there's another 2 parts to the same kind of story. So I'd like to at least continue onwards and finish off these 3. Like, it might be hard to read because they might not be well edited, but if the story is as intriguing as the first one, and if it still keeps popping up in my mind 6 years later, then it is worth the struggle. So I'm going to give E.J. Squires another go. The next author I'd like to mention is the one that I kind of have the condition on, and that is Laura Dockrill. So I read Big Bones by Laura Dockrill because it was nominated for the YA Book Prize, and I always read all of the YA Book Prize nominated books so that I can pick my winner. And I hated Big Bones. I thought that it was quite fatphobic. I thought that it was not well written. I thought it was quite damaging. And I said I would never read another Laura Dockrill book ever again. And it wasn't until I was making this list and crafting it up, I thought, oh yeah, I still haven't read Lorelei. Like, I should probably give Laura Dockrill another chance, because I do have an arc of Lorelei and I haven't unhauled it yet. It's signed. It has a gorgeous cover. Like, the actual cover is like under the proof cover, which is really, really pretty. And I was like, I don't want to unhaul it without reading it, so I'll give her another go. And then I realised I actually read one of Laura Dockrill's books a couple of months back, called What Have I Done? And it's a non-fiction book about motherhood, because when Laura Dockrill had her son, she sadly experienced some postnatal anxiety, and she had to go into a kind of mental health unit for it. And it was a really powerful exploration of the way that motherhood changes you. And being a mother myself, I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. And I know, obviously, the difference between, like, YA fiction and non-fiction is huge. An author who can write both of them is impressive already. And even though I didn't love Big Bones, other people obviously did, because it was nominated for the YA Book Prize. So it has merit in that way. It just wasn't good for me with how my mental health was at the time that I read it. So I'd like to give Lorelei a go. It's about mermaids. I like mermaids. It's a nice short story. I like short stories. So I will try another Laura Dockrill book, and I will see how I feel about it, and hopefully I will enjoy it more, and then Big Bones will just be the exception to the norm, because I've already rated one of her books 5 stars. But we're going to forget about that for the sake of this video. Another author that I would like to give a second chance to is Chelsea Pitcher, who wrote This I Will Kill You. So I did not like this one. It was a YA thriller that was kind of like Clue, but as a story. Loved the concept, hated the execution, and yeah, it got to the stage where it was a real struggle to pick it up. The characters weren't compelling, the plot fell apart, and it's something I find quite regularly with YA horror and YA thrillers. So you'll notice there's kind of a theme in this list that most of them are those kind of novels that I'm giving the author a second chance to. But I did see Chelsea Pitcher's second novel, which is Lies Like Poison, on NetGalley, and I thought, oh, I didn't hate the first one that much, so I might as well request it. And then I got accepted for it, and I was like, oh, I'm actually really excited. And then I realised that I'd rated the first book a 1 star, and I had made a mistake. So I mean, again, I have no choice but to read that one, and I'm actually quite excited about it, because even though I didn't really like This I Will Kill You, and I did give it 1 star, it was entertaining. Like, it's just kind of funny. Like, you read the YA thriller and you're like, this isn't thrilling and it's not scary, but at least I'm like still having a good time. And yeah, why not just read a book that might be awful but might be great? So another author that I'm going to mention on the same lines as that is Amy Lukovics, who wrote Daughters Unto Devils. Again, hated it. This was a book about, I think it was a Mormon family that were like moving to settle, and then they settled somewhere that there were ghosts and shit went down. And I have a problem with like kind of overly religious books, because I often think that they don't handle it well. It's hard to do kind of like an extreme religion in a sensitive way, and I don't feel as though it worked in this instance. It was like 5 years since I've read this, so I might be just talking out of my ass. I might be thinking of a completely different book, but that is the reasons that I can think of that I may have given it 1 star. But she does have lots and lots of other YA horrors, and people rate them really highly, and people loved Daughters Unto Devils, and I was like, that's really shit, I don't know why everybody likes it. But I want to give her other books a go, because maybe it was just that one. Maybe it was just that one that I didn't like. So I just really want to love YA horror, and I never love YA horror, and I don't know why I keep trying to find a YA horror book that I'll love. But I will do it eventually, damn it. I will. So the next book that I'd like to mention, or the next author, is Emma Healy. This is Whistle in the Dark. I read this earlier in the summer and I hated it. It was a 1 star read, as I've already told you. All of these, I've only read 1 by them, and they're 1 stars. I was expecting something from this that it was not. I thought it was going to be a psychological thriller. I thought it was going to be dark. I thought it was going to be gripping. I thought I wouldn't be able to put it down. Instead, it's a domestic thriller that is very much centred on like a mother's worries, and it's very kind of intimate to that mental headspace of like, my daughter has gone missing, she has come back, she won't tell me what happened when she was gone, something awful must have happened, and the kind of anxiety and worries that would spiral from that scenario. And like, it is an interesting book. It's psychologically fascinating, but it's just bland and boring, and I was expecting something much more interesting, and I think this was a case that it was never going to live up to my expectations, because I had it completely wrong. Like, based off of the cover, based off the description, I had completely the wrong idea of what this book was going to be. So that's kind of on me, kind of on whoever did the design for this book. But Elizabeth is Missing, which is Emma Healy's debut novel, had rave reviews at the time. I've got a copy of it hidden away somewhere, I've got no idea where. But that's about like an old lady who has memory issues, and she just knows that Elizabeth is missing. She doesn't know who Elizabeth is. Nobody knows who Elizabeth is. She can't kind of express anything more than that. But she's just so sure about the fact that this person called Elizabeth is missing. And that again, sounds like a really gripping story, but that one sounds like it's going to be more family oriented, more kind of domestic oriented, more focused on the characters rather than the plot. So I'm hoping, because my expectations for that one are different, that I will enjoy that one more. And if I hadn't pulled this one out of my TBR jar, I probably would have read Elizabeth is Missing first and then hated this one even more. So I'm kind of glad that I did it that way around, because I am still interested in Elizabeth is Missing, but it remains to be seen whether it's good or not. Who will know? The next author I'd like to talk about is Robin Schneider, who wrote The End of Everything, The Beginning of Everything. It's got a different title over here, which is like Shattered Heads and Broken Hearts or something, and I can never remember what it's called. Yeah, we'll have like the covers up here. Sure, we'll find them. I will help him. This is another case that I read this book before I started Goodreads. I read this book in sixth form, probably. We were on a coach trip somewhere, and I can remember reading it. I didn't read a lot back then, and it was one of those things. I got out of the library because I had a cool cover. I was like, oh, I'll just give it a go. Read the whole thing in one sitting. Hated it. I thought it was so bad. Can't remember why, because I read it that long ago and I didn't review it. But I can remember thinking that the character was like a manic pixie dream girl, and she was very annoying, and the plot was really, really transparent, and the main character was just a dickhead. So it was a whale of a time altogether. So then fast forward to when I start reviewing, and I get NetGalley, and I see a book called Extraordinary Means pop up, and I think, oh, Robin Benway, I really like her. No, Robin Schneider, not Robin Benway. I got my authors confused. So I requested Extraordinary Means, I got accepted for Extraordinary Means, and then I realised, oh no, that's that author of that book that I really, really hated. So I have to give her book another go. I'm hoping I'll enjoy this one more. I might end up realising that I didn't hate the first one as much as I thought I did. But it's one of those things where it was getting a lot of comparisons to John Green, and John Green was annoying me at the time, so I think even if I had enjoyed it, I probably would have been like, this is like John Green! Ugh! I try to be better now, but I was very up myself in sixth form, and if any of my friends are watching this, they can confirm that for you. So, yeah, an author I'm going to give another chance to, even if I don't really want to. Another author I'd like to talk about today is S.K. Tremaine, who wrote The Fire Child. Read this one in the summer, and I was pretty sure I was going to get a 3-star. It was pretty boring, but it had an interesting setting. It was a adult thriller set in Cornwall. There was a lot of discussion about the mines. There was some scenes in Truro, and I'd just been there, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. This really feels like Truro. And then there was this awful description when they decided to describe the snowy fields and the snowy landscape as autistic. And then it just turned into like a really kind of ableist novel towards the end. I had so many problems with this one. It was another one of those things when the plot just fell apart completely. Like, I'd thought to myself, haha, just imagine if that was what the plot was. But it was so bizarre and so out of left field that I was like, yeah, it's definitely not that. It was, and it shouldn't have been. But I either own The Ice Twins or I have it on my Kindle, which is S.K. Tremaine's debut novel, and I was recommended it by my old boss when I worked at the library. So I still want to read that one just because I appreciate the fact that Glenda recommended it to me, and I think that her reading taste is probably good enough that I will enjoy it. I'm just hoping this is a case of, like, because the first book was such a success, then they just kind of rushed the publication on the second book and they didn't really think it through. But if it's as crazy as the second one, then this is definitely an author I'm never going to pick up again. So the next author I would like to mention is Claire McFall, who wrote Ferryman. This was one of the first books that I ever reviewed, and I ripped it to shreds. It had so many spelling mistakes. It had so many character names that were like switched, so you're talking to one character and then they just transform into another character and then they transform back, and I couldn't. It was hard to keep track of everything that was going on, and for somebody who didn't read a lot of books back then, it was like a mental workout every time I picked it up. And also it was like paranormal romance with the insta love, and I should have just put it down. It was set in the Scottish Highlands. I liked that. It was about a girl in a train crash, and then she like gets off the train and it's like, oh, I need to try and get home. I've just been in a train crash. Like, that's an interesting plot. Like, how did you just walk off a train crash? Is this like a ghosty story? Is this just a really weird contemporary? But Yeah, the execution was not great. However, the book got republished. It got repackaged, republished, redesigned and everything, and it got extended into either a duology or a trilogy, with the second book being called Trespassers. And the publisher reached out to me and was like, hey, we saw your review of that first one, and we saw you didn't like it, so do you want to read the second one? And I was like, hell yes I do. Let me put myself through some more of that. But I wanted to reread Ferryman before I read Trespassers, and then I just couldn't bring myself to reread Ferryman because it was a 1-star read and I hated it. I need to learn the word no exists. And I need to learn that it's okay to say no to publishers because you're not responsible for personally pleasing every single person in the publication industry. Alyce, you can stop. But I have this book somewhere. I don't know where. It's somewhere in the house. And I will read it. And I hopefully won't hate it. Hopefully the republication and the re-editing and the sprucing up will have helped it a little bit. But I'm frightened. But I'm going to have to give her another chance, so she's perfect for this list. And then the last author on this list is an embarrassing one. And it's Charlaine Harris, who wrote the Sookie Stackhouse Mysteries, which is the inspiration for the True Blood TV show. And the reason that this is embarrassing is because I own every single book in the Sookie Stackhouse series. Like, there's 16 of them, I think, and I own all of them. I own every single book in Charlaine Harris's Harper Connolly Mysteries series. I think it might be something else. I own every single book in her kind of Shakespeare's series, which follows Lily Bard. I know the names of the characters that these series follow, even though I've never read any of them. I own some of the Aurora Teagarden mysteries, and I haven't read any of them. I've read one book of Charlaine Harris's on NetGalley, so I never owned it. And I gave it 1 star. And I already owned like 30 of her other novels. So did I unhaul them? No. I've just been lugging them from house to house. I'll read True Blood eventually. Will you, Alyce? Will you really? Well, now it's on this list, so you go. It's a gorgeous cover design, and like the worst part is I own multiple copies of this book because I've got it in the original cover, and then I've got it in the Pretty Rainbow cover. I find them in charity shops a lot. It's not like I've been like actively buying these all brand new. I think I've bought one of her books new, and that was because it was a signed copy that I found in Forbidden Planet. So I've only ever bought these in charity shops. So don't like come for me because I'm buying loads of new books by an author that I've never read, because I don't. She just is in a lot of charity shops, and the one book of hers I've read is the Midnight Crossroads Midnight Texas first book, and it was so bad, and I can't even remember why I didn't like it because I've just basically erased it from my mind completely. But it was a murder mystery with like paranormal aspects, and there were like some other characters from like her past books made like cameo appearances, but I didn't know that was happening because I hadn't read the other books. And so I don't know if I would enjoy it more if I had read the other books, because I think a lot of it hinges on the fact that you already love and know this character and you're like, oh, let me follow him on his new adventure. Well, if I don't know who you are and I don't care who you are, I'm not going to want to follow you on your new adventure, and it's going to be a 1 star. So eventually I'll read this book, and if I hate this book I will unhaul all of the Sookie Stackhouse Mysteries, and then I'll read the first book in the Shakespeare series, and if I hate that I'll unhaul all of those, and I'll slowly but surely work my way through the first book in every single series that Charlaine Harris has ever written, and then I'll probably end up owning none of her books because I won't enjoy any of them. Or I might love them. I like vampires. These are like scary vampires that actually drink blood and do weird cultish things.
Real vampires?
Real vampires. Not Twilight vampires. I like Twilight. That's not shade on Twilight. I do like the twist. the vegetarian vampires is an interesting one, but that's alright. But yeah, we'll give it a go. Probably won't work. Probably gonna hate it. But at least I'll know. I also think I have the second book in the Midnight Texas series on my Kindle because of NetGalley. So I will also carry on with the series that I gave 1 star to, because I'm just a sucker for punishment, apparently. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below if you have read any books by any of these authors that you would recommend. So not the ones that I've given 1 star to, but any other ones that I could try that may reinvigorate my love for this author. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to subscribe, then please do. We're going to be posting a video every single day in December, if it all goes to plan. That is just... Oh, Sean's like, we are. I'm like, grand plans often go wrong in this household. So there's a good chance you'll have like a week and a half of videos and then nothing else. Oh, Sophia's come to help me. So I should probably go now. But yes, subscribe if you'd like to. We'll see you tomorrow with another Bookmas video. Bye!